And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. We got Cody Stavenhagen. We got Austin Jackson. And we are less than 1 week away from opening day. It's finally almost here, guys. Are you excited? Are you ready for real games, even though they are technically kind of happening on a different hemisphere?
I'm super ready for real games, Kieran. Spring training gets long, man. We're at that point where I think most of the major stuff has already happened. I don't think anything's really going to change for the Tigers in the next 3 or 4 days. So there's a part of me that's like, all right, can we just skip ahead to Los Angeles? What are we doing here for
the These are good times. These are good times right here. Guys are pumped up. Bodies are probably feeling a little beat up towards the end, but they're ready though. Opening day is like nothing else. So these guys they're going to be ready, man. It's going to be fun to see what this group does.
Austin, when are you opening day ready? Like, when you were, in the grind, if you would, like the mental part of it, the physical part of it. Was there a kind of like a checkpoint where you were like, all right, yeah, spring training. Oh yeah, drills or whatever, backfields, like let's just get there. Was there a point that you were just like, I got this, let's just go?
Yeah. I mean, the last week is when you are pretty much locked in. At least that's when I felt locked in. That last week is when I felt dialed in with my timing, seeing the ball good off the bat, and on defense. But the main thing was to make sure my body felt good, making sure that I was doing all the things off the field and, away from the field to be able to get ready for a long season, because that's what it's all about. You want to really make sure the numbers and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, they're great. You go out and hit 600 in spring training. Who doesn't want to do that, right? But at the same time, it's all about, getting your body acclimated, because you're about to go on a long grind that, the numbers and things like that in spring training just aren't as important as making sure your body is where it needs to be come opening day.
Off that, Austin, look, when you were on the Tigers, there were at least still a few more teams stationed in the Orlando area, a little bit closer to Lakeland. The Tigers are very far from everyone these days. And one thing they're worried about is just getting to opening day. The schedule is kind of brutal. They played 2 games down in Fort Myers, so they put the whole team on a bus. It's a 2.5-hour drive. Drive back up to Lakeland. They'll play Friday. Saturday's a split squad. One of those games is 2 hours away. Sunday, they'll drive an hour plus with traffic to Clearwater, hop on a plane right after the game. They're going to San Francisco for 2 exhibitions, day off, opening day in LA. So they're going to San Francisco in part to get their bodies used to the Pacific time zone. But they actually tried to get the last day of spring training, that Sunday, off, and they couldn't make it work like that. You got to get your games in the schedule, but right. Spring training is way more grueling than people think, and as I'm sure you can attest to, it's a little bit easier if you're off in Arizona instead of the Grapefruit League circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I finally got an opportunity to play have spring training in Arizona, I was like, what? Why everybody should be doing this? Like, what are we doing? We're 20 minutes away in either direction. But that's brutal, man. That's tough. And it's tough on the guys, but I think a lot of it is, letting those guys get those innings in early and probably getting them out of there. You don't want to, at the same time you need those reps, those quality reps. Like I said, that last week of spring training is when you want to be most dialed in. I think the manager player communication thing is definitely needs to be high, because guys, might need 2 at-bats, 3 at-bats, might need to play almost. There was a couple times at the end of spring training where, I played a full game, and I kind of needed that to just get my legs, acclimated to playing that many innings. And you build it up, you start off early, you're not playing as much, obviously, but then towards the end of spring training, you're playing more. But but that schedule, that's brutal for those guys, man. And hopefully they, like I said, that manager player communication, I think is going to be important, with just filling guys out, knowing when to get the main guys out of there, get some of these minor league guys some looks, and let them take care of their body a little bit more.
Here's a good one. Tarek Skubal, Cy Young winner, ace. He's told AJ Hinch he wants to travel everywhere. He threw at Phillies in Clearwater and faced Harper, Schwarber, those guys. And this tells you something about Skubal. He liked the challenge so much of seeing like that A lineup. Saturday, there's a split squad. The Yankees probably aren't bringing anyone to Lakeland. He asked to go 2+ hours to face the Orioles in Sarasota just so he could face like their best lineup.
That dog mentality.
It's the dog mentality, man. You can't take that out of them, and you love that. Like, I want to see the best right now. Getting myself mentally, ready for those ABs. Come season. That way, I'm kind of just stepping right into the season, and I've already kind of got my energy level. I've got my anxiety, all those things high already in spring training when it didn't count. And essentially when you step into, opening day, you've already faced it. You've already faced the challenge of facing some tough lineups. So it's going to be nothing different. It's just going out there and executing at that point.
This doesn't really apply to this year's team schedule-wise, but it obviously will eventually. But like going from Florida or Arizona, if you're in Arizona, same concept, and then going up north. I know the Tigers start out on the West Coast, and but they are eventually going to be in Detroit, and it is going to not be warm, right, to begin the season. So what's that adjustment like, Austin, to go from beautiful Arizona, or in this case for the Tigers, beautiful Florida, and then you're in like 40 degrees, and even though it's opening day and it's exciting, but it's not the most pleasant of conditions, I would guess. Like, what's that kind of like? And did you dread that back in the day?
No, I loved it. Let me tell you why, though. I'm gonna tell you why, because what you're saying is what everybody was thinking. Everybody's like, oh man, you gotta go to Detroit opening day. It's gonna be cold, or opening series, whatever it was. And I love that. I kind of used that, knowing that guys were going to be cold. And I had all the cold gear I needed. So if guys are already mentally like, it's cold, I'm like, got you. You know what I mean? I got you, because you're already, you're already telling yourself it's going to be cold, and guys are all bundled up out there. And it's just like, it's a mental game at this point. So I love that, honestly. And because that was like, this is the perfect time to get off to a good start. Guys are cold. Pitchers can't grip the ball. They're just trying to get it. They're trying to get back in the dugout, so they're leaving pitches over the plate. I'm like, this is perfect. I loved it because it kind of gave me that head start. And mentally, I kind of used that, knowing that not everybody likes playing in the cold. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, another example of that dog mentality. There you go. Speaking of mentality, here after the break, we're going to go to break here in a second. But here after the break, we're going to talk about the number one name of the Tigers offseason making news once again.
Kratz, what time is it?
Time to stop overpaying for wireless with these bogus fees and, quote, free perks that actually cost more in the long run. You know what I'm saying?
What he's saying is it's time to switch to Mint Mobile with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. Just check it out. See how much you can cut off your cell phone bill. Go to mintmobile.com/territory.
No unexpected overages on those bills. You get all the bells and whistles too. And I love that all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And you bring over your current phone number when you switch. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/TERRITORY. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
All right, coming back here. We spent a lot of time talking about Alex Bregman and, getting what I thought was like, wringing the cloth as much as we could, even after he decided to sign with the Boston Red Sox. And to his credit, Alex Bregman gave us some more to talk about. So, Cody, I mean, you were first for this. So I just kind of want to tee you up here. Tigers were facing the Red Sox, and you got a chance to talk to Alex Bregman, and then he went on the Foul Territory show, and it's a quote heard all around the 313. So just kind of take us through Alex Bregman giving the ultimate tease to Tigers fans.
Okay, I'm a little bit mad. I got scooped by one of my own employers. All right, Cam Maben, Eric Kratz. I'm a little upset with you guys. I got up in the morning and I went to talk to Alex Bregman in the Red Sox clubhouse, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And I've told you guys, I'm as exhausted as anyone with the whole Bregman situation, but I was curious what he would say from his perspective. Would we learn anything? So I went and I did it. Talked to him one-on-one, and he said, as you may have seen, he thought he was going to the Tigers for, quote, 98% of the offseason. He later described on Foul Territory that the Red Sox came in basically a half hour before the news leaked and came in with that offer. You know, there's been some reporting of counter offers or what may have happened in the negotiations. Bregman didn't want to go into the details of that. I've always kind of looked at that as like part of the process. Of course, there's going to be a little bit more back and forth. I'm not sure we should get too riled up about what was or wasn't offered because we probably don't know like the real ins and outs, the full story there, and we still don't. But Bregman talked again about his respect for the Tigers, his relationship with AJ Hinch. On Foul Territory, he said very similar comments. So, of course, you know, Tigers fans see this, and as much as people have tried to move on from Bregman, I think it kind of stung all over again because there was a time where, a long time, it sounds like, where he thought he was going to go to the Tigers. It does kind of cause a million other questions that we'll probably never know the answer to. Like, if he thought he was going to Detroit all offseason, why did he not go to Detroit? Why did he not sign until spring training had already started? Was that Boris advising him to wait? Some of this stuff we're just probably never going to know the full answer to. And then there's kind of also this thought out here, like, are they already kind of trying to create a market for if he opts out? I don't know. Like, Scott Boras might be. I think Bregman, like, I think I just asked him a question, and Eric Kratz asked him a question, and he answered the question. Like, I don't know that there was really an agenda behind it other than dude thought he was going to Detroit. Also kind of interesting. He never mentioned the Astros or the Cubs. Like, sounds like those weren't near in play to the degree the Tigers were.
Well, Austin, if you heard that, like, if you're on the Tigers now and, you know, especially in this era, everybody's like, you know, on their phones and social media, like everybody knows like what the latest speculation is and all that stuff. And especially because this is before, like, you know, it's a spring training game, but before you're going to play this guy and he says like 98% of the time, I thought I was going to be your teammate. And then, you know, he's not. Like, what is that? Like, how would you react to that? You know, some comment like that.
Why you didn't come then? Why you didn't come? Like, I mean, it's like, how you supposed to react to that? You know what I mean? It's like, what didn't happen? What, I mean, who didn't get it done? You know, I think that at the end of the day, you know, it is what it is, right? Guys are gonna do whatever they're gonna do. But if I'm in that clubhouse, you know, it would have been nice to add a player like Bregman. And, you know, I think that it would have been just better if you just left that alone. Didn't even say anything about it. You know, like you said, it's a tease. Why are you teasing us like that? Like, but, you know, to your point also of, you know, maybe creating a market, you know, down the road, who knows? I mean, hey, don't ever underestimate the mind of Boris. He's up there. He's in full control of that. But yeah, but just as a player, that would sting a little bit. But you know, you're ready for when you know play them to let them know like, hey, you made a mistake. You know, that's how I take it. Even though it shouldn't even be that personal, I would kind of take it that way a little bit because you could have just left that. That comment didn't even need to even surface. You know, don't even bring that out here. Don't let us know that you were thinking about coming. 98%. You were here. You were basically signed, but something, you know, obviously the details that we don't know. There, like you said, there's probably a lot of things that happened that, that we will never know about. But 98% sure that you were coming, man, that's high. Maybe like 77% would have been the better. 77, I could have let 98. You on the team. You there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how. That's what I mean.
98%, but then you didn't sign until February 14th or something? What were we doing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have I love when players speak their minds. Like I wish more did. So I don't want to make this a criticism of him telling his truth, because I think for people like Cody and guys like us in the content business, it's good for us when people speak their minds. So I don't want to say Bregman, why'd you say it, to the extent of, I do kind of feel like it is one of those easy things to say afterward, sort of like that ex where it's like, yeah, I almost married you. What do you mean you almost married me? What you were the best thing that ever happened to me. Okay, well then why aren't we here right now? So those kind of comments kind of feel like a little bit. It's like a little bit feeding. I'm not saying he's lying, but it's also, I also think it's also an easy thing to say. It's sort of I think it's almost the player equivalent. Like, we've had Scott Harris on this podcast and we've had AJ Hinch on this podcast, and they both have made some reference to the moves that we didn't make, just in general. I'm not talking about Bregman, but just the moves we didn't make. AJ Hinch in game, Scott Harris, off-season trade deadline, player acquisition in general. And I feel the same way, where it's that's an easy thing to be yeah, well, you don't even know what we didn't do. It's yes, I know we don't know what you didn't do. so it just kind of gets me going, where it's it's almost like a power comment to make. So Bregman, speak your truth. I almost guarantee you he is going to opt out after this season, because why put it in there after year one if you're not going to opt out? So I don't think we're done talking about Alex Bregman, but for now,
let's save that to next offseason.
Now at least we can move on. So speaking of moving on, Spencer Torkelson, as of right now, the Tigers it kind of looks like they're not moving on from Spencer Torkelson. We talked a little bit about him kind of getting some time in the outfield, whether that's something that could be more of a role for him other than just something that, break glass in case of emergency. But we got ourselves a fine outfielder here on this podcast. So I thought Austin's expertise is kind of needed here. So two things, Austin. One, if you were just the general first baseman, now Torque he's got more of an athlete's build than your average first baseman, but he's, first baseman nonetheless. What would be your points of emphasis to try to coach somebody to go into the outfield? It looks like, Cody, correct me if I'm wrong, if it were to happen, it'd be right field mainly, probably not left.
Yeah, they're trying to keep him on the right side of the diamond, since it's new. Just the angle with how the ball comes off the bat, the sight lines, at least to ease him in. That's how they're going to start.
Okay, so we'll say we'll just keep it to right field then. And then two, Austin, if you were in center field and you had somebody like that Green in the outfield with you, how would that kind of change your approach, shading, anything like that? You can take that in whatever direction you like.
No, I mean, I think this is it's a unique situation for him, and it's really a good opportunity. If you think about it, not too many guys get this opportunity to, essentially resurrect your career. And he went from playing on the right side, obviously at first base, to move into right field. The biggest thing advice I would give is, don't try to be a hero. Keep the ball in front. I mean, I think that there's a lot that goes into playing the outfield, especially if you haven't played there too much or gotten too many reps out there. But we spoke on this the last podcast about just making the simple play. Nobody needs you to win a Gold Glove, although that would be awesome, right? If he went out there and was just like this all-star outfielder, that'd be great. But I don't think that's necessarily what he needs to do. I think he needs to just keep it simple, and make the simple play, make the correct throw. Don't try to do too much. You know what I mean? Until you get comfortable. Don't go out there seat sliding every ball that's in front of you or diving for balls in the gap. Keep the ball in front of you, get the ball in to the cutoff man. Keep it very simple. Now for me, like if I'm in center field and I had a guy that was making the transition to the outfield, a lot of the things that we work on they happen in batting practice. All the guys are out there, shagging and, taking it serious because you need to get those reads, especially on the corners, because the balls are slicing or hooking to you. So those are the best times, but every once in a while, balls get hit in the gap, and that's how you gauge your corner guys. How I would gauge their range. I would go hard for balls in batting practice, so they could feel like, okay, he has that. They feel comfortable going behind me, or maybe not being as aggressive on that ball in the gap because they know that I would be there. So a lot of the things I would do is get comfortable with him in batting practice. So that's the best time to do it. Reading balls off the bat. I mean, that's pretty much the only way you can simulate a live game is batting practice. Guys are swinging. There's, all different angles, pop-ups, line drive, ground balls, all those different things that simulate a game situation. So taking the batting practice seriously and me understanding his range and kind of actually just watching him too, seeing how aggressive is he on those balls in the gap. Should I be taking a different angle on that, or can I trust him to be there and me not go for that ball and go behind him? So there's a lot of things that go into it, but I think for the most part, it's just keeping it simple. You're already an infielder, so you know how to field a ground ball and keep a ball in front of you. So those are the things that are gonna honestly, add pluses to your outfield play, because you've been an infielder, where cutoffs are, where to throw the ball. You see these balls coming in every game. So those are things that you can take mentally out there to the outfield, knowing where when a ball's hit to you and a runner's on first base, where you're coming in, and a runner on no runners on, just where you're coming up and throwing. All of those things that happen in the game. A lot of that stuff happens in BP. So I would really encourage him to take batting practice seriously, because that's where you're gonna find your range. That's where I found the range when I got traded and I went to different teams. We took it serious. BP is something that you can find so many things out in batting practice. So
yeah, batting practice is fielding practice. How about that? Could you have transitioned to infield at any time, Austin?
No. Let me tell you why. That ball, hey man, these boys hit the ball hard. Okay, let me tell you something. Hey, they be hitting that ball hard, and I'm just not about that life. I don't. And I tell these 8-year-olds that we're playing with, like, get in front of the ball, get to the. Nah. I moved to the outfield because I was like, I used to play the hot corner, and I'm like, that ain't for me. This ball's coming too hard. I got way more time to react in the outfield. So, I mean, you look at Mookie Betts. I mean, that's freakish stuff that he's at. I mean, he's a different type of athlete to make that transition from the outfield to the infield and make it look, pretty easy. Like he's been doing it for a long time. I mean, a guy can go bowl the 300 or whatever the highest score. Like that's different stuff, like, so that, no, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Hit the ball too hard. That throw to first, I'd be throwing it in the dugout, in the stands. It would get ugly quick. So I was where I was supposed to be at. Oh man.
Always love honesty here on Tiger territory. All right. Well, another sort of curiosity element that I have here, and since we got Austin, we got to use every bit of knowledge that he brings. There's a little bit of would you call it a criticism, Cody, or just like a critique of Jackson Jobe Whereas like his stuff is off the charts. Like, fastball, off speed, like RPMs, like all the metrics, sort of what we were talking about with Andy Dirks last week. All the metrics that like make you think like this guy's gonna be like legit. And he probably will be legit. Very good chance he will be legit. But as of right now, he's still getting hit more than I think most Tigers fans would admit that they're a little comfortable with. And when he gets hit, is kind of like the good way to put it. So I'm curious, Austin, if you're going, like, what is it about a pitcher that, he could throw 100, his curveball has all this movement on it, but he's still getting whacked at the plate. And that's not to say that Jobe is getting whacked, but you see what I'm saying? Like, still getting whacked. Like, what are we who have never been in the box missing about like someone who's this talented, but is still like capable of getting shellacked every once in a while? Like, what are we missing with that?
Well, let's just talk about the fastball real quick. The fastball is just not the same with everybody. There's guys that throw 98, but it's just a light 98, if that makes sense. It's you can see it. You see it out the hand. You see it the whole way to the plate. And then you'll face a guy that throws 92 and you're fouling balls off. You're late. You're getting jammed. A lot of that comes with deception too, right? Like, if I'm not seeing the ball, if he's hiding the ball, if I'm not picking the ball up out of that window, it doesn't matter how hard you throw. It doesn't really matter how nasty your stuff is because I can't see it until late. You're hiding it. Guys, sometimes this is also a thing where they're so nasty that I can't swing at a pitch because it breaks. It's so nasty that it's like that pitch is not even hittable. So I can eliminate that pitch. Like there were times, guys, where like their sliders or their curveballs were just so tight and just so nasty out of the hand that it was like, and they couldn't throw it for a strike. They couldn't throw it for a strike. Probably one of the best, curveballs or sliders that you'll see, but it was so nasty that it wasn't hittable. So as a hitter, you give up on it because it's like it's never going to be a strike. You see it and you're like, that's nasty, but it's already breaking and it's already in the dirt. So I've already eliminated some of his nasty pitches, and I'm just keying in on the fastball. The problem, the tough ones are when everything's coming out that same window. Now, I'm not sure because I've never stood in the box with him, but I would probably guess that guys see his pitches really good, even though with all the spin rate and all these metrics, it doesn't matter. If a hitter is seeing your pitches, doesn't matter how hard you throw, doesn't matter how nasty you are, you're going to get hit. And you're talking about big league hitters that have seen thousands upon thousands of different pitches and different arm angles. And the really good ones, no matter how hard you throw, the metrics, they could be, through the roof. If a hitter can't see your pitches, he's not going to hit it. We have to see the ball to hit it. So guys are seeing it. Guys are seeing his pitches, even though it's nasty, even though the metrics are, it doesn't matter. Guys are seeing it. So, but he's also young. He's also facing the best of the best. So the experience he needs, I mean, you got to put him in there, right? Like you got to let him learn at that level. Obviously, you don't want him just out there and his confidence is getting rocked and things like that. But sometimes that's part of it too. You got to put him out there to let him go through those things and, figure out a way to get it done, figure out a way to hide those pitches, because I'm telling you, you hear it all the time from hitters with really good pitching is I can see his ball really good. I can see his 99. That's not normal. That hitters shouldn't be saying, I see that 99. Like it's a light 99. It's a light 98. And then the guy's throwing 90. And you're like, I can't see it. It looked like it's 98, but you look at the gun, it's 90. So, I mean, I think those are just some of the things that he's going to have to learn as a young pitcher, how to hide his pitches a little bit better, how to make those pitches come out of that same window. And when you do that, like I said, it doesn't matter what your metrics are. If everything looks the same, you're not hitting it. You're just not.
Yeah, the more we've seen of Jackson Jobe this spring, I think the more this kind of has become a question because you watch him throw in a bullpen. And for me, I'm not a major league hitter. I'm like, no one's going to touch this guy. It's crazy. And then you see him give up a lot of loud contact. I asked AJ Hinch kind of this very question, like, is there a sequencing issue? Is there something that's making him easy to pick up? And it sounds like for right now, the Tigers aren't working on adjusting his arm angle or trying to get more extension, or they just want him being more precise. Funny enough, his comment that kind of went viral, like, I stopped trying to dot a gnat's ass and just here's my stuff, see if you can hit it. Not necessarily what they want him to, like. I think they would much rather him be aggressive in attacking the strike zone than nibbling. But I think he's also learning that the middle of the strike zone isn't a great place to get major league hitters out. I think they want to be more precise with his location, live on the corners a little bit more. Tarek Skubal, I've said this before, tremendous example, had amazing stuff, got rocked early on in his big league career. And a lot of that with Skubal was getting behind in the count where he was more likely to kind of have to throw it middle. Jobe's actually doing a great job getting to 2 strikes. But then he's not missing bats in the strike zone. Guys aren't chasing, maybe because of how well they pick up the stuff. But they think that what he's going to have to do is improve the command, and that could go a long way for him.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, and that's kind of another thing that I was thinking about of just command. Just because you can throw hard, just because you have nasty stuff, you leave it over the middle of the plate, it's getting hit. That's what we practice. We set a ball up in the middle of the plate, the big part of the plate, and we take that swing a million times. So if you throw it there, it's most likely going to get hit. So, to your point, yeah, I think he's gonna have to command different parts of the zones, get guys looking in a certain direction, in a certain area, and being able to finish them off in a different area. If everything is just middle. For the most part, it's gonna get hit. Guys are way too good, and like I said, that's a swing path that we practice so many times. So it's not gonna be good to go there, a lot. Now, also too, like what you were saying about he's not having an issue with getting ahead and guys on hitters. It's just more about finishing them off. Guys are still making really hard contact with 2 strikes. That's tough. I think there is going to have to be an adjustment made, with that, because you can get behind real quick in a game. First inning, you come out, boom, 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 get 2 strikes on guys, and then you're giving up a double with 2 strikes. So there has to be something done, whether it's a sequence thing that could also be, just changing up the sequence of your pitching. That can go a long way, but I think experience too. He's gonna figure it out. He's gonna have to with major league hitters. He's gonna have to figure out how to attack the zone differently, be able to get guys that are out at a major league level.
Yeah, and we're still a couple days away from like the official notification that he will be doing that against major league hitters to start the season, as opposed to maybe in Toledo. So I think as of right now, everyone kind of expects him to start out in the rotation. But until things are official, as Alex Bregman taught us, it's never official until it's official. Got one more reference in there. Real quick, guys, we're recording this in the midst of the NCAA tournament, going on, just started today. Any national championship prediction?
Go ahead, Cody.
I've been in Florida for the past 6 weeks. I don't even know what's happening in college basketball. I know Oklahoma State had a terrible year there and in the tournament. I got nothing.
You can pick Florida. I thought you would, since you've been in Florida.
I'm so out of the. I've liked watching Michigan State play this year. I know they maybe didn't finish as strong as people would like, but it's January, February. Izzo, how about Tom Izzo making a little run?
Yeah. Austin, you got one?
Man, I haven't been keeping up with it as much as I normally do. Just been busy. But I watched Houston the other day, and they look pretty gritty, man. They look like they have that enough grit to be able to. This is when ranking, that stuff doesn't matter to me or anybody really. And if you're the top dog, you definitely have a target on your back. So they have just a grit about them that, you know, I could see them going deep in the tournament. And watch I say that, and then they go out and lose first round or something.
Well, they did win today. They won today, so it's all good.
Yeah, so I like them. I like I said, they play hard-nosed basketball, and I think they're coached real well. So I think they got a chance. And they've been there before, so they know how to play with it in adversity.
Yep, you guys chose two great coaches. No surprise, college basketball, a coach's sport. I'll go with Michigan State. I'll be the homer. My dad's alma mater. I think I technically have Duke winning in my bracket, but that's assuming Cooper Flagg's ankle is okay, which I've twisted my ankle that way. That is not a fun way to twist an ankle, but you know, I'm also not the number one recruit and number one NBA draft pick. So there you go. There's the difference between me and Cooper Flagg. All right, guys, this is a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for listening, following along on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Tiger Territory 5-star review if you feel so inclined. For Austin Jackson, Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great weekend.